Sarah Chen stood at the edge of the crowded military bar, nursing her beer and watching the latest group of hotshot pilots celebrate their recent training graduation. The amber liquid had grown warm in her grip as she observed their loud boasting about flight times and G-force tolerances. Their voices carried across the smoky room, each tale growing more elaborate with every round of drinks. "Did you see that rookie trying to keep up during the formation flight yesterday?" laughed Marcus Rivera, a cocky F-16 pilot whose reputation preceded him into every room. "I thought she was going to lose her lunch all over the cockpit." The other pilots erupted in laughter, their voices echoing off the wooden walls decorated with military memorabilia and faded photographs of distinguished aviators from decades past. Sarah took another sip of her beer, her expression remaining neutral despite the familiar sting of their words. She had grown accustomed to being the outsider in these gatherings. At 5'6", with an athletic build and shoulder-length black hair usually pulled back in regulation style, she often blended into the background, while the louder personalities dominated conversations. Her quiet confidence was frequently mistaken for uncertainty by those who didn't know better. "Speaking of rookies," called out Jake Thompson, pointing his bottle in Sarah's direction. "What's the deal with the tattoo, Chen? That some kind of wannabe pilot thing?" All eyes turned to Sarah's left forearm, where a detailed set of wings was inked into her skin. The design was intricate, featuring spread eagle wings, with a distinctive center emblem that most of the pilots couldn't quite make out in the dim bar lighting. The tattoo had been done with exceptional skill, every feather rendered in precise detail. Sarah rolled up her sleeve slightly, revealing more of the design. "Just something I picked up along the way," she said calmly, her voice steady despite the growing attention. "Along the way to what, exactly?" Marcus pressed, his tone dripping with condescension. "Last I checked, you're still trying to make it through basic pilot training. Most of us don't ink ourselves with symbols we haven't earned yet." The comment drew more snickers from the group. Sarah had been assigned to their base 6 months ago, as part of a cross-training program that nobody seemed to fully understand. Her personnel file was surprisingly thin for someone her age, listing only basic information and a series of training assignments that seemed disconnected from any clear career path. "Maybe it's one of those fake military tattoos you can get at the boardwalk," suggested another pilot, causing fresh waves of laughter. "You know, for people who want to look tough without actually doing anything tough." Sarah's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, but she maintained her composure. She had learned long ago that explaining herself to skeptical colleagues rarely produced positive results. Instead, she finished her beer and placed the empty bottle on a nearby table. "I should get going," she said quietly, gathering her jacket from the back of her chair. "Early morning tomorrow." "Running away from a little friendly questioning?" Marcus called after her. "Come on, Chen, we're just having fun. Tell us the story behind the wings. Did you get them after watching Top Gun for the first time?" The laughter followed Sarah as she made her way toward the exit, weaving between tables filled with off-duty military personnel enjoying their weekend evening. The bar, called The Hangar, was a popular spot for aviators and support staff from the nearby airbase to unwind and share stories from their missions and training exercises. Outside in the parking lot, the cool evening air provided welcome relief from the stuffy atmosphere inside. Sarah walked slowly toward her modest sedan, her mind processing the familiar scene she had just endured. These situations had become routine over the years. Wherever her assignments took her, her phone buzzed with an incoming text message from her roommate, Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez, who worked in base communications. "How's the pilot party? Making any friends yet?" Sarah typed back quickly. "Same as always. Heading home soon. Don't let them get to you," came Amy's immediate reply. "They'll figure out they're wrong eventually." Sarah smiled slightly at her friend's unwavering support. Amy was one of the few people on base who had never questioned Sarah's background or made assumptions about her qualifications. Their friendship had developed naturally over shared morning runs and quiet evenings reviewing technical manuals. As Sarah drove home through the quiet streets surrounding the base, she reflected on the pattern that seemed to follow her wherever she was stationed. The skepticism, the jokes, the assumption that her reserved nature indicated inexperience or incompetence. She had stopped trying to correct these misconceptions years ago, learning instead to let her actions speak when the opportunity arose. Her small apartment was located in military housing about 10 minutes from the main gate. The living space was functional rather than decorative, with standard-issue furniture and a few personal items that revealed little about her background. A bookshelf contained technical manuals on aviation, engineering texts, and a few worn novels that she read during quiet evenings. Sarah's laptop sat open on the kitchen table, displaying emails that had arrived during her evening out. Most were routine administrative messages, but one caught her attention immediately. The sender was listed simply as Command, with a subject line that read, Assignment Update. Immediate. She clicked open the message and read the brief contents. Report to Colonel Martinez, Office 0800 Monday, for mission briefing. Prepare for possible deployment. Classification level Delta. Sarah stared at the screen for a long moment, processing the implications of the message. Classification level Delta meant the assignment involved highly sensitive information that required special security clearances. She had been expecting this type of assignment for months, though she had begun to wonder if it would ever materialize. Her phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. The caller ID showed a number she didn't recognize, but the area code indicated it originated from Washington, D.C. Chen, she answered professionally. Sarah, it's General Morrison. The familiar voice belonged to her former commanding officer from a previous assignment that officially didn't exist in any public records. I assume you received your new orders. Yes, sir, just now, Sarah replied, automatically standing straighter despite being alone in her kitchen. General Morrison commanded respect even through a phone connection. Good. I wanted to give you a heads up that this assignment is going to be different from your recent training rotations. You'll be working with some new people who might not understand your background initially. Sarah almost laughed at the understatement. Understood, sir. That's been pretty much every assignment lately. I know it's been frustrating, maintaining cover while dealing with personnel who don't have the full picture. The general continued. But this mission will allow you to operate more openly. Just remember that operational security is still paramount until you receive explicit authorization. Copy that, sir. Can you tell me anything about the mission parameters? Not over this channel. Colonel Martinez will brief you on Monday. Just be prepared for rapid deployment and extended operations. Pack accordingly. After ending the call, Sarah walked to her bedroom closet and pulled out a large duffel bag that had seen considerable use over the years. She began methodically packing items that wouldn't be needed for a typical pilot training assignment. Specialized communication devices, technical equipment that looked more sophisticated than standard-issue gear, and clothing appropriate for various climates and operational environments. Her preparations were interrupted by another text from Amy. Saw your car in the parking lot. Everything okay? You left the bar pretty quickly. Sarah considered her response carefully. All good. Got called in for a meeting Monday morning. Might be traveling for work soon. Sounds mysterious. The usual kind of traveling? Amy was one of the few people who suspected that Sarah's frequent reassignments involved something more significant than routine training rotations. Their conversations often danced around topics that couldn't be discussed directly due to security protocols. Probably, Sarah replied. I'll let you know what I can, when I can. Be safe out there. Whatever you end up doing. Sunday passed quietly as Sarah completed her packing and reviewed technical manuals that might be relevant to various mission types. She had learned to prepare for multiple scenarios since her assignments often involved rapid changes in operational requirements. Monday morning arrived with typical military precision. Sarah dressed in her standard duty uniform and drove to the base administrative building where Colonel Martinez maintained his office. The hallways bustled with personnel starting another week of training exercises and administrative duties. Colonel Martinez was a veteran officer with 30 years of military service spanning multiple conflicts and peacekeeping operations. His office walls displayed commendations and photographs from assignments around the world, creating an atmosphere of serious professionalism. Take a seat, Lieutenant Chen, he said as she entered after knocking. We have a lot to cover and not much time to cover it. Sarah settled into the chair across from his desk. maintaining the alert posture that had become second nature through years of military service. Your new assignment involves a joint operation with several allied nations, Colonel Martinez began, opening a thick folder marked with security classifications. There's been an incident involving a downed aircraft in hostile territory, and the situation has become politically complex. He slid a photograph across the desk, showing satellite imagery of mountainous terrain marked with various tactical symbols. The aircraft was carrying sensitive equipment that cannot be allowed to fall into the wrong hands. Multiple rescue attempts have failed due to the challenging terrain and hostile forces in the area. Sarah studied the photograph, immediately noting the difficulty of the terrain and the strategic challenges it would present for any rescue operation. What type of aircraft, sir? That information is classified until you're fully briefed by the Joint Command Team. What I can tell you is that this mission requires someone with your specific skill set and security clearances. When do I deploy, sir? Transport leaves at 1,400 hours today. You'll fly to a forward staging area where you'll meet your team members and receive your complete mission briefing. Colonel Martinez handed her additional documents marked with security classifications. Your cover identity for this operation will be different from your current assignment here. The team you're joining has been told they're receiving a technical specialist, but they haven't been given specifics about your background. Sarah nodded, understanding the familiar pattern. Will I be working with conventional forces, sir? Mixed unit, some special operations personnel, some regular military, some technical specialists like yourself. The mission commander will determine how to best utilize everyone's skills once you're on site. Copy that, sir. Is there anything else I need to know before departure? Colonel Martinez studied her for a moment before responding. This operation has drawn attention from very senior leadership. Success could impact your future assignment options significantly. The mission parameters allow for more operational flexibility than you've had in recent assignments. Sarah understood the implication behind his words. After years of maintaining cover identities and working within restrictive parameters, this assignment might allow her to operate more openly and demonstrate her actual capabilities. I understand, sir. I won't disappoint. I don't believe you will, Lieutenant. Your transport briefing is at 1,200 hours. Dismissed. Sarah returned to her apartment to collect her packed gear and make final preparations for deployment. Amy was at work, so she left a brief note explaining that she had been called away on assignment and wasn't sure when she would return. The transport briefing revealed that she would be flying on a military cargo aircraft to a base in Eastern Europe, then transferring to a smaller aircraft for the final leg to the forward staging area. The journey would take approximately 14 hours with refueling stops. As Sarah boarded the cargo plane that afternoon, she reflected on the conversation with Colonel Martinez and General Morrison's phone call. This assignment represented a potential turning point in her career, an opportunity to step out of the shadows and contribute more directly to important military operations. The aircraft lifted off into the clear afternoon sky, beginning another chapter in Sarah's unconventional military career. She settled in for the long flight ahead, mentally preparing for whatever challenges awaited at the destination. Below, the landscape gradually changed from familiar training grounds to vast expanses of ocean and eventually foreign territories, where she would soon be operating alongside personnel who knew nothing about her true background or capabilities. The mission ahead would test more than her technical skills. It would require navigating the complex dynamics of working with new team members while maintaining operational security about her actual experience and qualifications. Sarah had learned to excel in these challenging environments. But each new assignment brought unique obstacles and opportunities. As the cargo plane cruised toward its destination, Sarah reviewed the mission documents one final time, committing key details to memory before the operational briefing that would reveal the full scope of what lay ahead. The forward staging area sat nestled in a valley between two mountain ranges, its temporary structures blending into the rocky landscape through careful camouflage and strategic positioning. Sarah's transport aircraft touched down on a hastily constructed airstrip as the sun began its descent toward the western peaks. The base buzzed with controlled activity as various military units prepared for different aspects of the ongoing operation. Personnel moved between prefabricated buildings with the efficient urgency that characterized military operations in hostile territories. Captain Mike Stevens met Sarah at the aircraft as she gathered her gear. Stevens was a career officer with 20 years of experience in logistics and operations coordination. His weathered face and confident manner suggested someone comfortable with the complexities of joint military operations. "Lieutenant Chen, I presume," Stevens said, extending his hand in greeting. "Welcome to Forward Operating Base Granite. I'll be your liaison while you get oriented here." Sarah shouldered her duffel bag and followed Stevens toward a cluster of buildings marked with various unit designations. The thin mountain air carried the distinct sounds of military preparations, equipment being tested, vehicles being maintained, and personnel conducting briefings. "Your technical expertise comes highly recommended," Stevens continued as they walked. "The mission commander is eager to get your assessment of our equipment needs and operational parameters." "I'm looking forward to contributing to the mission, sir," Sarah replied, maintaining the professional tone expected in these initial interactions with new personnel. Stevens led her to a building marked as Unit Headquarters, where the mission planning was being coordinated. Inside, the atmosphere was intense but organized, with multiple workstations displaying maps, satellite imagery, and communication equipment. "The team you'll be working with is scheduled to arrive this evening," Stevens explained. "Most of them have been operating together for several months, so you'll be the new addition to an established group," Sarah nodded. "Familiar with the dynamics of joining existing teams during ongoing operations. What can you tell me about the team composition?" "And mixed specialties, as I'm sure you were briefed. The team leader is Staff Sergeant Rodriguez, an experienced Special Operations Coordinator. You'll also be working with Technical Sergeant Williams, who handles communications and electronic warfare systems." Stevens paused at a workstation displaying detailed topographical maps of the target area. "The terrain where we're operating presents significant challenges for conventional rescue approaches. That's why Command decided we needed someone with your particular background." Sarah studied the maps, immediately noting the elevation changes, potential landing zones, and natural obstacles that would complicate any extraction operation. The target location was marked with precision coordinates, but the surrounding area showed why previous rescue attempts had encountered difficulties. "Has there been any recent intelligence about hostile forces in the target area?" she asked, tracing potential approach routes with her finger. "Intermittent contact with irregular forces, but nothing organized enough to constitute a major threat to a well-planned operation," Stevens replied. "The main challenge is the terrain and weather conditions, which can change rapidly in these mountains." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of several personnel who had been attending planning meetings elsewhere in the building. The group included officers from different branches of service, each bringing specialized knowledge to the overall mission. "Ah, perfect timing," Stevens said. "Lieutenant Chen, let me introduce you to Major Patricia Hayes, who coordinates our intelligence operations." Major Hayes was a sharp-eyed woman in her early 40s whose reputation for thoroughness was evident in her precise manner of speaking. "Lieutenant Chen, I've reviewed your clearance levels and technical background. Impressive credentials for someone relatively early in their career." "Thank you, ma'am. I'm ready to contribute however the mission requires." "Excellent. We'll have a complete intelligence briefing tomorrow morning that will give you the full picture of what we're dealing with. The situation is more complex than the initial reports suggested." As the afternoon progressed, Sarah was introduced to various personnel involved in different aspects of the operation. Each introduction followed a similar pattern: professional courtesy mixed with curious interest in the new technical specialist, whose background seemed unusually extensive for someone of her apparent rank and experience. Evening brought the arrival of the team she would be working with directly. Staff Sergeant Carmen Rodriguez proved to be a compact, energetic woman with 15 years of special operations experience. Her reputation for successful missions in challenging environments had earned respect throughout the special operations community. "Chen, glad to have you aboard," Rodriguez said after Stevens made the introductions. "I've been told you have expertise in technical systems and equipment evaluation. We're going to need all the expertise we can get for this operation." Technical Sergeant David Williams was a tall, lanky communications specialist whose quiet demeanor concealed extensive knowledge of electronic warfare and surveillance systems. His equipment cases contained sophisticated gear that had been specially configured for the challenging operational environment. The communications setup for this mission is more complex than usual, Williams explained to Sarah during their initial meeting. We're coordinating with multiple command elements while maintaining operational security in an area with significant electronic interference. Sarah listened carefully as Williams described the technical challenges they would face. Her questions demonstrated familiarity with advanced communication systems that surprised both Williams and Rodriguez, though they attributed her knowledge to specialized technical training rather than operational experience. The evening briefing provided Sarah with her first complete picture of the mission parameters. The downed aircraft had been carrying prototype electronic warfare equipment that represented years of development and billions of dollars in research investment. The technology could not be allowed to fall into hostile hands under any circumstances. Previous rescue attempts failed due to a combination of factors, Major Hayes explained to the assembled team. The crash site is located in extremely difficult terrain. Weather conditions have been unpredictable, and there are indications of increased hostile activity in the general area. Hayes used a laser pointer to highlight specific locations on the projected map. The aircraft went down here approximately 72 hours ago. The crew managed to transmit emergency signals for about 6 hours after impact, but communications have been silent since then. Sarah studied the crash site location, automatically calculating approach vectors, extraction routes, and potential complications based on the topographical information. Her mental analysis was more thorough than what would typically be expected from a technical specialist, but she kept her observations to herself. "What's the current weather forecast for the target area?" asked Rodriguez. "Marginal conditions for the next 48 hours, Hayes replied. After that, a major storm system is expected to move through the region, which would make any rescue operation impossible for at least a week. The time pressure added urgency to an already complex mission. Rodriguez turned to her team members, assessing their readiness for rapid deployment. "Williams, how long do you need to configure the communication equipment for field deployment?" 6 hours minimum, assuming we don't encounter any technical complications, Williams replied. "The electronic countermeasures equipment needs to be calibrated for the specific operational environment." Rodriguez nodded and looked at Sarah. "Chen, I need your assessment of our equipment readiness and any recommendations for additional technical support. Can you have that ready by tomorrow morning?" "Anyone. Absolutely, Sergeant. I'll need access to the equipment inventories and specifications for the aircraft we'll be using. Stevens will get you whatever you need. This mission has priority support from command, so resources shouldn't be a limiting factor." After the briefing concluded, Sarah spent the evening reviewing technical specifications and operational parameters. The complexity of the mission was immediately apparent, but she also recognized opportunities that might not be obvious to personnel without her specific background. Her analysis revealed several potential improvements to the planned approach, particularly regarding navigation systems and communication protocols. However, she needed to be careful about how she presented her recommendations to avoid raising questions about her experience level. The next morning brought a detailed intelligence briefing that revealed additional complexity in the operational environment. Major Hayes presented updated information about hostile forces and terrain conditions that had been gathered through various intelligence sources. Overnight surveillance indicates increased vehicle movement in the general target area, Hayes announced to the assembled team. "This could be coincidental, but we have to assume hostile forces are aware of the aircraft's location and may be attempting their own salvage operation." The news added another layer of urgency to the mission timeline. Rodriguez immediately began revising operational plans to account for potential hostile contact during the rescue operation. "Chen, have you completed your equipment assessment?" Rodriguez asked. Sarah presented her analysis using language that demonstrated technical competence while avoiding details that might reveal the depth of her operational experience. Her recommendations included modifications to communication protocols and navigation systems that would significantly improve mission success probability. "These suggestions show excellent understanding of the technical challenges we're facing," Williams commented after reviewing Sarah's report. Implementing these modifications could give us significant advantages in the field. Rodriguez approved the equipment modifications and authorized Sarah to oversee their implementation. The work required coordinating with multiple technical specialists and equipment operators, giving Sarah her first opportunity to demonstrate practical skills beyond theoretical knowledge. As she worked with the various technical teams, her competence became increasingly apparent to the personnel around her. Her familiarity with advanced systems and her ability to solve complex technical problems impressed colleagues who had initially assumed she was a recent technical school graduate. "Where did you pick up experience with this type of navigation system?" asked Chief Petty Officer Marcus Thompson, a Navy technical specialist who was helping configure the mission equipment. Sarah provided a vague answer about previous training assignments while continuing to work on the system calibration. Thompson seemed satisfied with her explanation, but she noticed him watching her work with increased interest. By midday, the equipment modifications were complete, and the team was conducting final preparations for deployment. The mission launch was scheduled for early evening to take advantage of darkness for approaching the target area. During the final briefing, Rodriguez reviewed mission timelines and contingency plans with her team. Each member had specific responsibilities that would need to be coordinated precisely to ensure mission success. Chen, you'll be responsible for technical assessment of the target aircraft and determining the best method for extracting the sensitive equipment, Rodriguez explained. To Effer, once we reach the crash site, your technical expertise will guide our priorities and procedures. Sarah nodded her understanding, internally noting that the mission parameters would allow her to operate with more independence than she had experienced in recent assignments. The opportunity to contribute directly to critical mission objectives represented exactly the type of challenge she had been preparing for. As evening approached, the team conducted final equipment checks and reviewed emergency procedures. The aircraft that would transport them to the target area was a specially configured helicopter capable of operating in mountainous terrain under challenging weather conditions. The helicopter crew consisted of experienced pilots who had flown numerous special operations missions in similar environments. Chief Warrant Officer Lisa Park, the aircraft commander, briefed the team on flight routes and insertion procedures during their pre-flight meeting. "Weather conditions are marginal but acceptable for the mission timeline," Park announced. "We'll have approximately a 4-hour window to complete the insertion, conduct the mission, and extract before weather conditions deteriorate beyond safe operating limits." The time constraint meant the team would need to work efficiently once they reached the crash site. There would be little margin for error or unexpected complications during the ground phase of the operation. As the team boarded the helicopter for transport to the target area, Sarah felt the familiar combination of anticipation and focus that accompanied the beginning of important missions. The next few hours would test not only her technical skills but her ability to contribute effectively to a team operation under challenging conditions. The helicopter lifted off into the gathering darkness, beginning the flight toward mountains where a complex rescue operation awaited. Below, the lights of the forward operating base gradually disappeared as the aircraft climbed toward its cruising altitude. Sarah reviewed mission parameters one final time as the helicopter flew through the night sky. The upcoming operation would require every skill she had developed through years of training and operational experience. More importantly, it would provide an opportunity to step out of the background role she had been maintaining and contribute directly to mission success. The crash site awaited somewhere in the darkness ahead, along with challenges that would test the entire team's capabilities and coordination. Sarah was ready to meet those challenges and prove that her quiet confidence was backed by substantial expertise and determination. The helicopter descended through swirling mountain mist toward coordinates that had been precisely calculated during the mission planning phase. Chief Warrant Officer Park's voice crackled through the team's communication system as she updated them on their approach to the crash site. 2 minutes to insertion, Park announced. Visibility is marginal, but acceptable. Be prepared for rapid deployment once we reach the landing zone. Sarah checked her equipment one final time, ensuring that all technical gear was properly secured and accessible. The specialized tools she carried would be essential for assessing and extracting the sensitive systems from the downed aircraft. Through the helicopter's small windows, she could see the rugged mountainous terrain illuminated by the aircraft's infrared systems. The landscape appeared even more challenging than the mission briefings had suggested, with steep slopes and rocky outcroppings that would complicate ground movement. 30 seconds to touchdown, Park called out. Remember, weather window is tight. We need efficient ground operations to stay within acceptable risk parameters. The helicopter touched down in a small clearing approximately 200 meters from the crash site coordinates. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez immediately took charge of the ground operations as the team quickly unloaded their equipment and established a defensive perimeter. Williams, establish communications with base operations, Rodriguez ordered. Chen, begin your approach to the aircraft for technical assessment. Thompson, provide security overwatch while Chen conducts her evaluation. Sarah shouldered her technical equipment and began moving carefully toward the downed aircraft. The wreckage was scattered across a rocky slope, with the main fuselage resting against a large boulder that had prevented it from tumbling further down the mountainside. As she approached the aircraft, her trained eyes immediately assessed the crash damage and identified potential hazards. The cockpit area showed severe impact damage, but the aft section containing the sensitive electronic equipment appeared to be relatively intact. Rodriguez, this is Chen, she reported through her radio. Initial assessment shows the target systems are accessible, but extraction will require precision work to avoid damaging classified components. Copy that, Chen. How much time do you estimate for complete extraction? Sarah studied the wreckage more closely, identifying the specific equipment modules that needed to be removed and secured. Her familiarity with the systems exceeded what would typically be expected from a technical specialist. But the urgency of the mission focused everyone's attention on efficiency rather than questioning her expertise. 90 minutes for safe extraction of all priority systems, she replied. I'll need Thompson to assist with some of the heavier components. As Sarah began her work on the sensitive electronics, she became aware of movement in the surrounding terrain. Chief Petty Officer Thompson, who was providing security, also noticed the activity and immediately alerted Rodriguez. Sergeant, we have movement approximately 400 meters south of our position, Thompson reported quietly. Looks like a small patrol, possibly investigating the area. Rodriguez quickly assessed the tactical situation while Sarah continued working on the equipment extraction. The mission timeline was tight enough that any delay could compromise their ability to extract safely before weather conditions deteriorated. Chen, how's your progress? Rodriguez asked, her voice carrying the tension of the developing situation. First priority system is secured and ready for transport, Sarah replied without interrupting her work. 2 more modules to extract. Then we can exfiltrate. The sound of approaching vehicles became audible over the mountain wind, indicating that the hostile patrol was moving closer to their position. Rodriguez had to make immediate decisions about whether to continue the mission or abort before the tactical situation became too dangerous. Williams, what's our communication status with base operations? Rodriguez asked. Intermittent contact due to terrain interference, Williams replied. I can get emergency messages through, but detailed coordination is difficult from this location. Sarah worked steadily on extracting the remaining electronic systems, her movements efficient and confident despite the pressure of the approaching hostile forces. Her technical skills were clearly more advanced than anyone had expected, but the immediate tactical situation prevented detailed observation of her methods. Movement is approximately 200 meters in closing, Thompson updated. We need to make a decision about staying or going. Rodriguez watched Sarah's progress while calculating the risks of remaining in position versus abandoning the mission incomplete. The sensitive equipment represented months of development, work, and operational capabilities that could not be replaced easily. Chen, what's your status on the final extractions? Rodriguez asked again. 30 seconds on Module 2, then 90 seconds for the final priority system. Sarah replied, her voice steady despite the approaching danger. I can compress the timeline if necessary, but rushing could damage the components. The tactical situation reached a critical point when the approaching patrol became visible through the team's night vision equipment. Rodriguez counted approximately 6 personnel in 2 vehicles, moving directly toward the crash site with obvious search intent. That's it. We need to prepare for immediate extraction, Rodriguez decided. Chen, grab what you can and get ready to move. Instead of rushing, Sarah made a quick assessment of the remaining work and adjusted her approach. Give me 60 more seconds. I can get both remaining modules if you can buy me that time. Rodriguez recognized the value of Sarah's technical judgment and decided to trust her assessment. Thompson, Williams, establish defensive positions. We hold this location for 60 seconds. Then we move, regardless of status. The next minute unfolded with military precision as the team coordinated their actions under pressure. Williams monitored communications while maintaining overwatch. Thompson established fields of fire covering likely approach routes, and Rodriguez coordinated the overall defensive posture. Sarah worked with focused intensity, her movements betraying familiarity with sensitive equipment that seemed unusual for her apparent experience level. She extracted the remaining electronic modules efficiently while ensuring their security during transport. All priority systems secured, Sarah announced. Ready for immediate extraction. Rodriguez signaled for movement toward the helicopter landing zone as the hostile patrol vehicles reached the crash site perimeter. The timing was close enough that coordination between team members became critical for avoiding contact while moving through difficult terrain. Chief Warrant Officer Park had been monitoring the tactical situation from the helicopter and was prepared for immediate departure once the team reached the landing zone. Her aircraft engines were already running at operational power levels to enable rapid takeoff. The team moved quickly but carefully through the rocky terrain, carrying the extracted equipment and maintaining security awareness. Sarah carried the most sensitive components personally, recognizing their critical importance to the mission's success. As they approached the helicopter, hostile forces at the crash site began moving in their direction. Apparently having discovered evidence of the extraction operation, Rodriguez pushed the team to increase their movement speed while maintaining tactical discipline. 30 seconds to the bird, Rodriguez called out, as they reached the final approach to the landing zone. The team boarded the helicopter efficiently, with Sarah ensuring the sensitive equipment was properly secured for transport. Park immediately began takeoff procedures as soon as all personnel were aboard and secured. The helicopter lifted off just as the hostile patrol vehicles reached a position where they could observe the landing zone. Park executed evasive maneuvers while climbing toward safe altitude and heading for the return route to base operations. Base operations, this is Extraction 1. Williams reported once they had achieved sufficient altitude for reliable communications. Mission complete. All personnel and priority cargo secured. Returning to base. The flight back to the forward operating base provided an opportunity for the team to decompress from the tension of the extraction operation. Rodriguez reviewed the mission execution with her team members, noting areas where coordination had worked well and identifying lessons learned. Chen, your technical work under pressure was outstanding, Rodriguez commented. You extracted those systems faster than our estimates suggested was possible, and that made the difference between mission success and having to abort. Sarah accepted the compliment professionally, while ensuring the extracted equipment remained properly secured during the flight. Her performance had clearly impressed her team members, though they still didn't fully understand the extent of her actual capabilities. Upon returning to the forward operating base, the team immediately transferred the sensitive equipment to technical specialists who would evaluate the systems and prepare them for transport to secure facilities. Sarah's role in the extraction was noted in the mission reports as exceptional performance under challenging conditions. The successful completion of the mission triggered a series of debriefing sessions and administrative procedures that were standard following sensitive operations. Sarah participated in technical briefings about the extracted equipment while preparing for her next assignment. 2 days later, an unexpected development changed the routine atmosphere at the forward operating base. A senior officer delegation arrived unannounced, including personnel whose presence indicated the mission's success had drawn attention from very high levels of command. Sarah was conducting routine equipment maintenance when Captain Stevens approached her with an unusual expression. Chen, you need to report to the main briefing room immediately. There's a delegation here that specifically requested to meet with you. The briefing room contained more senior officers than Sarah had seen assembled in one place during her time at the forward operating base. The group included representatives from multiple branches of service, several officers whose rank indicated very senior positions, and one individual whose presence surprised her completely. Commander James Mitchell of the Navy SEALs stood at the far end of the briefing room, his uniform bearing decorations that indicated extensive combat experience and senior operational responsibilities. Mitchell was legendary within special operations communities for successful missions in the most challenging environments. Lieutenant Chen, Commander Mitchell said as she entered the briefing room, his voice carrying authority that filled the space. Your reputation has preceded you, though apparently not everyone has been properly informed about your background. Sarah came to attention automatically, uncertain about the purpose of the meeting but recognizing the significance of the assembled leadership. Commander Mitchell approached her with a bearing that indicated serious purpose. I've just finished reviewing the mission reports from your recent extraction operation, Mitchell continued. Your technical performance was exemplary, but more importantly, your tactical awareness and operational decision-making revealed training and experience that seem inconsistent with your apparent career timeline. The room fell silent as Mitchell continued his assessment. I've also been briefed on your actual background and operational history, which explains a great deal about your performance capabilities. Mitchell turned to address the other officers present. Gentlemen, allow me to properly introduce Lieutenant Sarah Chen, formerly of the Air Force Special Operations Command. Her recent assignments have been conducted under operational security protocols that limited disclosure of her actual qualifications and experience. Sarah felt the attention of every person in the room focus on her, as Commander Mitchell revealed information that had been classified during her recent assignments. The revelation explained many of the questions that had surrounded her presence at various training bases and operational units. Lieutenant Chen's actual career includes specialized training in technical intelligence, operational planning, and field extraction of sensitive systems, Mitchell explained. She has successfully completed missions in 12 different countries over the past 8 years, many of them solo operations requiring the exact combination of technical expertise and tactical capability that made this recent mission successful. Mitchell paused and looked directly at Sarah. The wing symbol, tattooed on your arm, represents qualification in experimental aircraft systems and covert technical operations, a designation earned by fewer than 50 personnel across all branches of service. The room remained silent as the implications of Mitchell's words became clear. Sarah's quiet presence and understated demeanor had concealed operational experience that surpassed most of the personnel she had worked with over recent months. Your performance during the extraction operation demonstrated exactly why you were selected for this mission, Mitchell continued. The successful recovery of those electronic systems will directly impact our operational capabilities in multiple theaters of operation. Commander Mitchell stepped directly in front of Sarah, his expression serious and formal. In a moment that shocked everyone present, he came to full attention and rendered a precise military salute that acknowledged her contributions and recognized her actual status within the Special Operations community. Lieutenant Chen, on behalf of the Joint Special Operations Command, I want to thank you for your exceptional service and professionalism during this mission and throughout your career. Sarah returned the salute with equal precision, her own bearing reflecting the operational experience that had been hidden beneath her cover identity. The formal recognition represented validation of years of difficult assignments conducted without public acknowledgement or recognition. The other officers in the briefing room began to understand why Sarah's recent performance had seemed inconsistent with her apparent experience level. Her technical competence, tactical awareness, and calm professionalism under pressure now made sense within the context of her actual operational background. Your next assignment will allow you to operate under your actual identity and rank, Mitchell announced. Command has determined that your cover operations have provided sufficient intelligence and operational experience to qualify you for senior technical leadership positions. After the formal presentation concluded, several officers approached Sarah to express respect for her service and apologize for any previous misunderstandings about her qualifications. The revelation had fundamentally changed how her colleagues viewed her contributions and capabilities. Captain Stevens, who had served as her liaison since arriving at the forward operating base, shook his head in amazement. Lieutenant, I apologize for any times when we may have underestimated your capabilities. Your actual background explains a lot about your performance during the mission. Technical Sergeant Williams was equally impressed by the revelation. Chen, your technical expertise during the extraction makes perfect sense now. You were working at a level that seemed advanced for a recent graduate. But now I understand you've been doing this type of work for years. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez summed up the team's reaction succinctly. I knew there was something different about you from the beginning, but I never imagined you had that depth of operational experience. Your performance during the mission was exceptional by any standard. The formal recognition from Commander Mitchell represented more than acknowledgement of a single mission's success. It marked the end of Sarah's period of operating undercover identities and the beginning of a new phase in her career, where her actual qualifications would guide her assignments. As the delegation prepared to depart the forward operating base, Commander Mitchell approached Sarah for a final private conversation. Lieutenant, your willingness to serve without recognition, while maintaining operational security, has been noted at the highest levels of command. Your future assignments will reflect your actual capabilities and experience. Thank you, sir. I'm ready for whatever challenges command considers appropriate. I believe you are, Lieutenant. Your performance under pressure and your technical expertise represent exactly the type of leadership our special operations community needs for future challenges. The successful mission and subsequent recognition marked a turning point in Sarah's military career, validating years of difficult assignments and proving that competence and dedication ultimately receive the recognition they deserve, even when that recognition comes after enduring skepticism and misunderstanding from those who didn't know the complete story.